It's update day for Battlefield 5, and the Easter egg hunt is back on. The Sulis storyline within the Firestorm game mode went silent just a couple of weeks after its launch, and today things got a little bit more interesting. Now, as I'm sure you know, 3 brand new locations have been added to the Halvoy map for us to go and explore. We have Watchtowers, Blue Forest, and Excavation Site, all of which could be tied into the story that we're following through at the moment. But there's something else that I want to start this video with that's arguably much more interesting than those 3 new locations. Inside the pre-round lobby within the airplane hangar, a new room has been opened up. It's on the west side of the hangar, closest to the radio that's playing the music, and you can squeeze through the door and you'll find yourself in a dark hallway on the other side. There's lots of writing and scribbles all over the walls. There's a few statements that you can make out through the scrolls and all of the equations. Most of them refer back to the Firestorm itself in some way. The first one says, "Alexandria, all is ablaze. My time is up. My research is lost. Consumed." Another one says, "Some say the world will end in fire. Others say in ice." This is from the poem Fire and Ice written by Robert Frost. The third scribble says, "Spontaneous geocombustion confirmed" by the group. And a final one, I think, says, "Marcus, Loctus Zero is invalid. You were right, I'm sorry. Site 9 is confirmed by the group and our," and then it ends, "build the dome." This final message sits above another line that says, "around 650 meters E," which could be a location on the Halvoy map itself somewhere, but at the moment we don't really know. The room then opens up into some sort of vertical shaft, and I've brightened the footage so that you can see a little bit better, but you're in this small room that extends above and below you, and there's a series of walkways and doors that at the moment you don't appear to be able to interact with. There's a bunch of Sulis machines in the room as well, and on the wall there's a couple of bright orange boxes that look like they could be interacted with at some point. They look conveniently placed. Right now, the room doesn't really do anything. It's sort of just an extension to the pre-game lobby. You can come in here as much as you like during pre-game, and you can run around and try and figure out what the hell's going on. But the Battlefield Easter egg community is already hard at work trying to figure out what all of this means and what it could be connected to. But the Criterion team that started the Sulis Easter egg have now had their work furthered by the DICE team, who are of course now in control of the Firestorm game mode. Now, the phrases on the wall, they might be linked together somehow, but personally, I think the new locations on the map are starting to unveil a deeper meaning behind the actual storm of fire that's coming across the map. We still don't know why the fire does that, and we don't know why we're fighting on this frozen peninsula in Norway. But just before I made this video as well, someone noticed that the Sulis machines that were in the middle of those small rings of fire on the map, the ones that you could go and visit and grab loot from, those machines are no longer there in the middle of the circles, which is odd. So there's still a lot to be discovered here. Okay then, moving on from the starter zone, let's talk about these new locations on the Halvoy map. And we're going to start off with the brand new Watchtowers. There are 3 of them located on the hills that lead down to the south and the southwest coasts of the map, and they all stand between Baldar's Point and Guderos. They're really good landing spots if you can get there before everyone else does, and they're not just good for loot, they're good for oversight as well. As you can probably tell from the name, the Watchtowers are basically lookout posts, but they face out into the sea. On the very top floor, however, the roof, that can be used as a vantage point to then look back into the map, and potentially you can track targets from there. Now, if you're dropping in as a squad, these towers can be really good spots to start from, as they have loot spaced out across the top floors and the ground level as well, but there might not be enough for all 4 players to gear up properly. You're going to have to spread out a little bit and gather some more loot from surrounding buildings. Because of their height, I can see the watchtowers attracting some attention from the helicopters that are on the map, although the helicopters themselves don't have any weapons on them, so really you'll just be scouting out the watchtowers in your massive moving vehicle in the sky, but it might give you some reason to maybe land the helicopter on top of the watchtower. That could be really interesting to see. One really cool feature of the watchtowers is that they're now one of the few places within the Halvoy map that stand tall enough that give you enough time whilst you're falling to pop your parachute again. You need to make sure you jump off the side where the ground is sloping away from the watchtower, but if you needed to make a quick escape from the top of the tower, then you could go ahead and do that. You can pop your parachute halfway down and you won't hit the ground and instantly die. I just found that interesting considering there aren't that many places that you can currently do that on this map. Of the 3 watchtowers that now sit along the coastline, I've put a map on the screen to show you where they are. I'd say the middle one is probably the most preferable to drop on at the moment, as it's not particularly close to any built up areas, so you can kind of loot in peace and then move out from there. But obviously, bear in mind, this is launch day of these new locations. These towers are extremely hot areas at the moment. People just want to check them out after them being added. So if you're not a fan of that frantic early game action that can happen in a round of Firestorm, then maybe steer clear of these watchtowers for the next few days. Okay then, moving on to the second new location, this is Excavation Site, and this sits to the west of the Frozen Lake on the east side of the map. This is basically Pluto Dig Site's little brother at the moment. It's much shallower and it's much smaller in general, but it is a good loot location with plenty of strongbox spawns. There's lots of ground loot here, and there's even a chance that a helicopter could spawn here as well. That makes it ideal as a place to drop if you're playing squads. Now, compared to the watchtowers, you're seeing a lot more loot here. So for squads, all 4 players could drop here and you'd be off to the races at the start of a round. But as a solo player, with it being quite open, you're going to have to watch out for other players dropping with you and make sure you take cover if you're reloading weapons as you pick them up. Because there's so much loot here and people will eventually find that out, a lot of people are going to start dropping here at the start of a round. With this new excavation site being right next to the Frozen Lake, you can then make a beeline straight for the lake afterwards, and you can get even more loot from there if you want to, or you can head south down the hill towards the town that's located there, and you can loot up even more. There's also a vehicle breakout point just down the hill to the south as well. That'd be ideal to stop off at if you are in a squad. And lastly, we have the New Blue Forest. This is located north of Halfdella, over the hill towards the northwest corner of the lake in the middle of the map, and it's by far the most low-key of the 3 locations, although it's probably the best looking of the 3. Now, according to the Battlefield website, this secluded forest area has been blooming early this year due to recent geological activity, and it has covered this section of the map in blue flowers, so it's quite easy to see as you drop in and you get closer. When you land here, however, there's absolutely no loot at all, apart from one single location. As I was dropping onto this point, I realised what I was going to drop into, which is basically a barren wasteland when it comes to loot, and I quickly diverted to its edge and I managed to grab a rifle from a hut before I then moved in. And unfortunately, 2 poor souls lost their lives in that forest to my bullets because they'd landed in there and then realised there was nothing there for them to use. That one loot location, there is a small buried hut towards the lower end of the forest, and it seems to be a high tier spawn location. I got lucky during my first round, it spawned an epic Kar98 with ammo, so after those 2 kills and a nice loot find, I was pretty happy coming out of the Blue Forest. This, I'd say, is just more of a map change rather than a brand new location, but considering it's supposedly linked to geological activity, a pattern is starting to emerge here, so just hear me out. We have a brand new dig site on the map, we have a message on the wall in the new Sullis room that mentions spontaneous geocombustion, and we have the new watchtowers that are guarding the peninsula. Something really odd is happening on Halvoy at the moment. There's definitely something going on underground. There's lots of different mentions of geological activity. We've got those scribbles on the wall, we've got a new dig site, we've got the watchtowers, and for some reason, this forest just starts blooming early for some reason. Absolutely no idea why. Something's going to link it together, and I think it's down to the community to try and figure out what's actually going on. Everyone loves a good Easter egg hunt in the Battlefield community, and it looks like we've got another one starting off here. So some interesting updates to Firestorm, and of course the continuation of the Sullis Easter egg story. I'm definitely intrigued by what's happening at the moment, and I can't wait to see what we end up finding out. Thanks very much for watching today, and until next time, my name is Westy, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.